Happy to be joined now in Muskogee Media Studios with Mr. Alvin Bucktrot. He is the acting director over at the Muskogee Cremation Division of Housing. Mr. Bucktrot, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we wanted to bring you in. We're doing a series on all the executive officers that are coming forward. Just talk a little bit about really your experience and what's brought you here to today and being able to be in such a position.
Well, I think people will probably remember I ran for council a couple of times before, and I didn't get into government issues until probably about 10 or 15 years ago, where I felt like I could do something to help citizens, and that's why I tried to run for council, and that didn't pan out, and that's fine, you know. But when I was offered this position as housing director, I thought, well, if I didn't make it as council to help people, maybe I can help in this fashion. So that's why I took this. But I've been in the construction industry for 38 years, and the last 7 years I've been at the Tulsa Housing Authority working with them in their construction maintenance department, and we had intel with the construction company, their construction department there, as far as bids and contracting out to outside contractors, in which then we had to adhere to HUD rules also there, you know. So we had to make sure we had our I's and T's dotted and crossed and everything like that. So, and then I worked for the Indian Hospital many years ago, and I was a union steward with them, and that part of me got me involved with helping employees and being an advocate for them with between them and management and everything, and make sure they were getting the fair shake that they could and everything. But this was an opportunity. Everybody always talks about why don't the housing or just the nation itself, just why don't they do this, that, and the other. And then when I was presented this position, then I thought that was my opportunity to get in there and do what I could do with it.
Well, you look at what's happened as far as just with us and our coverage of the division or the housing division. You talk about, we look back in the fall, we had a citizen come forward in a very public forum, in a way, bring up some accusations. We then pursued the story, started talking about it, and it became something where we got all parties involved talking about waivers, specifically waivers to people to be able to sort of move up the list or whatever to get a house, and it concerned an elected official. So it was a pretty serious story. As a citizen, just on the outside looking in, what was your opinion when that whole ordeal was going on? Did you have some things that you thought, well, maybe, you know, if I had a chance to come in, and what are you doing now when you've seen those things?
Well, when I first heard about it, I thought it was unfair, personally. Right. And I didn't know, I never heard of a waiver. Of course, I wasn't involved with housing or didn't know all their guidelines. I didn't even know if a waiver existed, and I don't think it does. I think it's just something that was done, you know. But like I said, I didn't agree with it. And now that I'm here and that we're trying to set things right and follow policy to where it's supposed to be done, which these policies have been in effect for probably the last 2 administrations, so I don't know why there was such a discrepancy and why certain things may or may not have been followed and everything. But that particular incident you're talking about, I'm not sure if it's still under investigation or not, so I can't really comment too much about it. But I know what you're talking about, and if it came to the point where we had to do some more investigation, I think that would be something that we would need to look into. But I don't think something like that would probably happen now that I'm there, you know, because I haven't seen anything. I kind of looked at it just on my own, you know, just see what the options would have been, and it's kind of sketchy, but you know, things have been done in the past that probably shouldn't have been done, you know. But right now, the way we're going right now, we're going down the path of where we should be going legally and with the policies and everything like that. So, but I can't get into it too much because I really haven't looked into that issue.
So now you come into the position, and yourself in a meeting brought up the fact that there were some things going on that you thought were a little sketchy also, like people not paying their payments on their homes. And you brought that up, and talk a little bit about that. Was that just one of many things you found when you came in, or was that something that you needed addressed immediately?
There were several, there's a few other things, but that was one that really stuck out, because I would get calls, my managers would get calls, well, I can't do this, or I need to pay half of this, or this is too much, or whatever. And then I pulled a few reports, and then I realized that it was just all over nation as far as housing goes, that there's so many out there that are behind. And I mean, way behind, not a month or two, I mean, a year or so behind. In some cases, it's a few $1,000s. And some of it it's just mind-boggling, because some of it's just $50 rent. Some of it's $100 rent. And some of them are $350, $400 rent. But the point is, everybody signed a contract, a lease contract, to pay X number of dollars for rent. And for whatever reason, and I understand that things happen, people lose jobs, and some people are on fixed incomes, I understand that, but it's still a contract that they signed and agreed to do. And all we're trying to do is try to make it right for the housing and the nation. Because those funds that the housing gets from the rents and stuff goes back into other programs that help us rehab or do repairs on other houses. So if they're not paying rent, then that fund is going to get drawn down, and then eventually we'll probably run short and not be able to help somebody. But that's all that's about, is to make them aware and make them accountable for what they agreed to do. That's all that was about.
The payments that are in delinquent status right now, are those actually for, what kind of program are they designated for? Is it rental, ownership, what?
It's for the home ownership program, but the rents that come from those home ownerships that pay the rent goes into a non-program fund at the housing that is there for citizens that don't qualify for certain HOSDA funding. Then we can use that funding to do what necessary repairs we need to do to the house. That's what that rent money is for.
How do you think it actually got to that point where, there wasn't rent collected, mortgage collected on these homes?
I think people in the day just ignored it. That's the bottom line. I think it just got ignored, and/or former administrations may have said, maybe one of our coordinators was going to evict somebody at the time, and maybe whoever was chief at the time and whoever may have been the housing director at the time may have been told to let it slide.
You think that's the case?
I think that's part of it. I really do. I think that's part of it. Because there's too many out there that's behind on rent right now. And it's just, I hate to say it, but that's the truth. That's what I believe. Some people of the past administration may say that's not true, but that's just the way I believe it, because some of these people have gone on way too long to not. I mean, if you or I had a rent house, we're not going to let somebody go 2 months without paying rent. That's part of our livelihood. Well, that's part of the housing and the nation's livelihood too, by collecting these rents. And housing is there to supply the citizens with safe, sanitary, and houses, and that's what we're doing. But they have to show us their appreciation by paying their rent, whether it's $50, $100, $350, or whatever the rent is. But that's what we're doing for them. I don't know how Arizona, with the Navajos, and then New Mexico, some of those tribes out there, they're struggling real hard out there for their housing and whatnot. So Muskogee people should be glad of what they have right now and should be proud and take care of it and not put themselves in a position to lose that. But I think it's just a lack of enforcing policy back in the day that caused all this problem.
And it really becomes too, I would imagine, with us, as far as on the Creek Nation side, an issue of compliance.
It is. It's all HUD. It's all HUD regulations, and I believe they had an audit last year over there, and they had a few issues, and they made corrections to those as the first year turned around. Those corrections had been made, and that's what this is about. It's not about being. I think somebody told me that I was trying to be mean or something like that, but that's not what this is about. This is just about us being compliant with HUD regulations and stuff. And if we don't get that right, then HUD's going to come back and they may end up cutting fundings, and then the citizens are really going to take it on the chin again if HUD denies us certain fundings. So we're trying to protect them in a way, but they got to work with us too, because they made an obligation to housing to pay X number of dollars in rent. So that's what it's about.
So the action that you guys are taking right now, talk about that as far as making sure those people are caught up. Have you sent things out to the citizens? Is it a large amount of people, things like that?
Well, right now there's like 115 people that are delinquent. So instead of sending out notices right now, that's why I made the comment, we're going to give them till the fiscal year, which is October 3rd. They got 6 months to get their finances in order, either try to get caught up or get their families ready for adjustments. And then at that time in October, then they got an option to come in and work out an agreement, although it will not lower their rent, but they can work out a payment plan. They're probably going to have to pay the rent and plus a little extra to help the arrearage to get taken care of. But they still have options at the end of that at the beginning of the fiscal year. So when that comes around, and it's not like some people may think we're housing or me are trying to kick them out, and that's not the case. We're just giving them 6 months to get ready for it. I didn't want to just go in there first right off the bat. I'm not trying to do that. I'm working with them. I'm going to give them 6 months. Then we'll work with them then, But then whenever they make those agreements at that time, that agreement is pretty much the last straw, because it's very specific in it. If you fail at that agreement, then the lease could be terminated. No questions asked. It's just terminated. So it would behoove the citizens to try to make things right for themselves, because that's the last thing I want to do is try to get somebody out of their house. I do not want to do that. But we still have obligations to HUD and to the nation and to the housing authority to make these changes.
You, me, any one of us that have been citizens of this nation that know about housing have always heard about the waiting list, and so-and-so's been on the waiting list this many years or whatever, but it's almost where we don't ever really talk about it. It's talked about, but in a real way. What's your opinion of that, and how it's currently performing and how we're moving it along?
It's performing as best it can right now. Now that I'm just like you, I wondered for years, you hear a waiting list. Well, now that I'm here, I see the issues now. And what it is we only have so many houses in inventory that are vacant, which is very minimal versus the list that we have. It's extremely long. There's not enough houses for us to buy, say in Holdenville, Eufaula. Citizens are being, they want to stay in their home territory like Holdenville, Wetumpka, what have you, Yeager. Well, if there's not any houses there, we can't buy the houses and we can't put them there. And we probably don't have any houses in that area. So the list, the movement of the list is stagnant. It will not move. And if we can build houses, but the citizens have allotted land from grandparents and HUD regulations, all that land, they have to have a deed in their hand that has their name on it. It's got to say Jason Salzman on there, owns 2 acres. Then we can put you a house on there without you waiting years and years for that house, you know. But there's so many citizens now that, and I know it's a money thing with citizens trying to get their land probated and everything, but that's what has to happen. That's what has to happen.
You look at it too as there's even been, you know, like we said before in the coverage before, there were accusations that people were moving up. We always hear, you know, that so-and-so moved up or whatever, you know. Can you talk about that? I mean, did you see any of that going on too, or do you feel like there was any of that going on?
I've heard things. I haven't seen it. And I know I talked to the managers and whatnot that they've told me things that maybe somebody got preferential treatment. And they used to do this and they used to do that. Well, it probably did happen, and I'm assuming it did happen, but I haven't seen it, and it's not happened since I took over, and it's not going to happen while I'm there. So, you know, if they're at the top of the list, that's where they're going to be, and they get a house, then we'll just move right on down. Maybe higher ranking officials of the tribe maybe have cousins or whatnot. Maybe they wanted to slide in there first or something. Maybe that happened before, you know, but it don't work that way. It don't work that way anymore. So,
talking about being an executive officer named, you have to go to confirmation before the National Council, and that's just sort of, you know, you're in front of a jury of your peers almost, so to speak, there to be confirmed. Your vote was actually postponed. Do you have any feelings or thoughts on maybe why there wasn't just an initial confirmation? Have you talked to any of the council about why there was a postponement?
No, I haven't. I haven't talked to any of them, and I just kind of took it in stride. And I said, it's out of my hands. It's whatever they want to do. You know, the chief wanted me to act or do the director's job of the housing, and I was willing to do that. I left a career position where I planned to finish out my career there, and I knew this was going to take a chance because I still had to get confirmed. But I was willing to do that because I saw the chance to help citizens and try to make housing a better for them. But as far as me, no, I didn't take it any personal. I just, like I said, I just took it in stride. And if somebody decides down the line they don't want me to carry on with the duties that I'm doing right now, then I'll move on and keep on trucking. It's not a big deal, you know. I mean, I do like this position that I'm in right now. I do like it, and I see I'm making a dent over there, and the managers and the employees seem to be happier, and they're making an effort too and helping me along. So, and there's a bunch of good employees over there that you kind of had to pull the leash off, I guess, so to speak, and let them do their job, let them spread their wings and let them do it. So in that case, that's worked out to the good. I think they seem to be happy. And I left the door wide open for anybody to come up and talk to me if they have issues or anything like that. And some of them do, and I see them out in the hallway and talk to them, you know. But nobody's told me anything negative, and I haven't heard anything. So, but the confirmation is just, it's up to the council what they want to do. You know, I can't go twist their arms, or I can't shoot them $5 or nothing like that. So, but I'm just waiting on them.
What sort of feedback have you been getting from citizens? I mean, I'm sure that you've heard from citizens. How has that been?
Actually, I haven't got too much. I've gotten a little bit back through relatives that have talked to other people, and some of them and that's what they think. They think that I, since I took over, are trying to evict people, and I'm being crass, I guess, is the term that I'm trying to use. But and then some of them like it. Some of the younger people like it. It's amazing to me that some of the younger ones like it. That we're making citizens own up to their agreements. But it's kind of 50-50 from what I've heard. Like I said, I haven't heard that much personally. Like I say, it's just through friends of friends that I see that will tell me, or somebody else here at work will tell me, But it's probably 50-50. But as a citizen that has back rent, they shouldn't take it as us punishing them or anything like. It's not like that. It may seem that way, but that's not the way it is. The housing just wants what they agreed to pay to the housing, and it shouldn't have got as far as it got right now. Because again, if you're doing that, if they're part of that, then you're not setting a good example for your children or your grandchildren or anything like that. As they get older and as we are gone, they're going to be handicapped because, well, Dad did it, Grandma did it, they didn't do this, do that. Well, it may be a whole new ball game whenever they get older, and they're going to be in a bad way because they don't know how to handle themselves financially and care of a home.
Well, Mr. Bucktrot, thank you so much for coming in and speaking with us for just a few moments. I know that it's something that the citizens will want to hear and the folks out there want to hear from you doing the job that you're having to do right now. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to be here.
Great.